morning, everyone. My name is Suzanne Templin, and I coordinate the webinars for Houseman Johnson Insurance. I would like to welcome you to today's webinar titled Insufficient Sleep, a Public Health Problem, presented by Rich Johnston. Today's webinar will run about 45 minutes. After the webinar, we will have a question and answer session. If you have a question during the webinar, feel free to type it into the question feature, and Rich will address it during the Q&A portion. After the webinar is over, there will be a short survey we are hoping you can fill out for us. A note that this webinar has been certified for continuing education credits by the Society for Human Resources Management and the Human Resources Certification Institute. Details on those credits will be provided to you at the conclusion of this webinar. Also, please be aware that this webinar is being recorded and will be available for review on the webinar archives of our website. If you do not want to participate in a recorded webinar, you may want to close the application at this time. You will receive a follow-up email from us tomorrow. I would now like to introduce you to our presenter for today's webinar, Rich Johnston. With over 25 years of experience in health and safety, Rich is passionate about simplifying the complex world of risk management for the clients of Houseman Johnson Insurance. He takes pride in helping clients reduce workplace injury. Rich has specialized knowledge of health and safety program development, industrial hygiene, mold assessments, and employee training development. His previous experiences include working for OSHA in New Mexico, running the Wisconsin DNR Safety Office, and acting as an OSHA consultant. All of this experience makes Rich a guiding hand for clients who find themselves involved in OSHA negotiations. He has a wealth of knowledge on this topic, and we are very thankful that he could share some of his wisdom with us today. Welcome, Rich.
Thank you, Jen, and good morning, everyone. I hope everyone slept well. This topic this morning on insufficient sleep is not really something that's new. It's been around a long time. There has been some interesting developments in research that has come out in the last, I would say probably 4 or 5 years on it. And most recently was a topic that came out on drivers and vehicle or fleet operations as far as sleep deprivation. So what I'm going to talk about is what we know. And some of the research areas are some of the stuff that's available on research documents that you can that you can pull down yourself and take a look at what we're finding out. But there's really nothing new in terms of science here. The first thing though I want to get going on this. Basic fact. There's nothing that we can say or change about this. Humans are diurnal and we are not nocturnal. That means we are active during the day and we sleep at night. Cats, for example, are nocturnal. Dogs are diurnal. Owls are nocturnal. It's an underlying fact of nature, of biology, that we and all living creatures operate on it's basically a 24-hour cycle, and it is very much time-oriented, and it's called the circadian rhythm. And that's broken up into when we're active and when we're not active. And again, as I said before, this is cast in concrete. There is nothing anyone can do to change it. There's no technology that can change it, though people have looked at different things that can be done to, they've tried to change it, and I'll refer to a couple of those things as we get going on, or as we start going on this. But I want you all to keep in mind that we are diurnal creatures, we are daytime creatures, we are not nocturnal creatures. Now, as I said before, it really can't be changed. This is our basic nature. It's part of who we are. It's brain chemistry. It's how do you want to describe it? It's our biology. It can be delayed, and I'm sure many of you have talked to people that say, third shift workers that say they can do this and they don't mind it. It doesn't really affect them. They get used to it, and it's really what that is just reflecting an adaptation. It doesn't really eliminate the process, and for those people that adapt to it, it does build up over time the challenge or the sacrifice that people make to work when they should be sleeping. Eventually builds up over time and causes all kinds of health conditions, and that's I think really where the research is coming, is what are those health effects, and what are we tying things together? And again, I'll talk about some of those. There's been quite a bit of information out on the web, I know, and we've got clients ourselves, Houseman Johnson does the deal in full spectrum lighting. This was seen as one tool that if the theory is that if you put in full spectrum lighting in a manufacturing environment, for instance, it allows people to work that third shift without any health effects. And quite honestly, what the research shows is that it works very well during the normal wake time of humans. It helps us wake up better, and it helps us stay active more at a higher level, especially during daytimes during the seasons. But it really doesn't work any differently at night. It does not make a person operate when they should be sleeping. The other thing about the circadian rhythms or the nocturnal diurnal cycle is that it's initiated by light. Now, this is really an interesting, when I say it's initiated by light, the immediate thought a lot of people have is, well, we see the light, therefore we're awake. That's one part of it. If any of you out there, and I'm sure in Wisconsin many of you do have it, it's called seasonal affective disorder, which is real common. Mine starts just about Thanksgiving. And I start craving carbs, which I'm not supposed to eat. And I get slow, and I get moody, and I get really just kind of dragging down. And many years ago, I started using what's called a SAD light. That's SAD for seasonal affective disorder. I got affective spelled wrong, I see that. And essentially, it's a high-intensity light, which I sit under in the morning when I'm having my coffee and breakfast. And that initial dose of light gets me going for the day. Now, by middle of January, when we get through the winter cycle and then light is starting to get longer, I come out of it. Just that quickly, I come out of it and start getting better, and I don't need that light as much. But the issue of seasonal affective disorder and the use of high-intensity full-spectrum lighting is, again, a well-established syndrome, especially in the northern climes. And, again, the science is out there. We know that this occurs. What we're looking at here is the effect of two different hormones in the brain. One is called melatonin, and the other one is called serotonin. And these cycle based upon the perception of light and seeing light that the brain has. Again, it comes through the eyes, and again, I'll refer back to that in a second. But it's these cycle back and forth. Now, the first thing that was examined, I mean, you can go back and find this. It's called the French Cave Study. And it was done in 1977 when a gentleman, a researcher, locked himself literally, in a cave in France and denied himself access to light. And his goal was to change himself from a 24-hour cycle to a 48-hour cycle. He didn't succeed, of course, but the thing that came out of it was that his perception of time, that is, where it was 1 o'clock, he thought it might be 10 o'clock, his perception of time, his internal clock, had changed. And he was actually changing it to a 48-hour cycle. Each day, it was getting slower and slower, where that 24 hours was being lengthened out to a 48. But it did not change the diurnal nocturnal cycle. That was not changed at all. So there is the example what I was referring to before, where it's not based upon light. It's based upon, there's actually two parts to it, the eyes seeing light and also the internal clock that we all have, which again is that circadian rhythm. I found it really interesting when it came out. You can find this study on the internet. It's not hard to find. Wikipedia has it. And he was asked what time it was, and he, again, announced his perception of time was. He did not have a clock. So he just had an idea what time it was. And he was probably 3 to 4 hours off. But he did report that he had to go to sleep every 12 hours, and that did not change as to when he was doing his own recording showed that did not change. He did not know whether it was light or dark outside, but in his timing, internal timing in his reporting, it showed that his sleep cycle was at the same time it always was. Most recently, I've been seeing some stuff on TV where they're advertising a new medication, and it's for treating a syndrome called non-24-hour syndrome or non-24 syndrome. This is for non-sighted individuals, blind individuals, who are having an issue with not being able to, I believe, sleep at a certain time. It's non-24. They are not able to sense the time of the day because they can't see light. So now how is it that without the ability to see light, the brain is still acting as if it's a 24-hour cycle, causing conflict internally? So there again, that circadian rhythm is so integrated, internalized in the human biology that even without the use of our eyes, it still influences us. And there is really no way that we can change that. Again, it's called non-24 syndrome or non-24-hour syndrome, and again, it's individuals who cannot sleep or cannot see. Now, let's get into one of the basic problems we have in the working world, and that is the use of, first of all, third shift workers and swing shift workers. These are practices that are not new. They go back years, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60 years, goes back probably to the Industrial Revolution, when it was decided that we're going to increase production by adding a third shift. We're going to take the 24-hour day and break it up into 3 8-hour shifts. Where are we having the problems? We are seeing the problems in the third shift, and I'll get to some of those problems in a minute. And again, people can adapt. They say we can adapt. I enjoy the third shift better. But science and workers' comp is showing that really there are some sacrifices that are being made to support that third shift. There is also the swing shift, where people will work, we'll work 6 weeks at third shift, then we'll go back and we'll work 4 weeks at the second shift or whatever. The issue with that is that the adaptions that are made at the third shift, we lose them when we change back to a second shift or the first shift. And again, it causes conflict internally, biological, physiological disruption within the system when we keep moving around within that cycle. There's some research I'll give you a document later on that's looking at the 10 and 12-hour shifts. And all we can find out at this point is that people are looking at these shifts. I guarantee there's research going on. The question becomes, if that 10 to 12-hour shift is in the third shift time period, most definitely it's going to cause issues. That's not going to change. You're just increasing it by increasing the hours, increasing the risk by increasing the hours that one is working. But again, there is research going on right now as far as the 10 and 12-hour shifts during normal diurnal work periods, which would be 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. I guess you would say that would be a 12-hour shift. That's the normal time period when we are up and around. So again, these are the two areas that are under a lot of research. Drivers, vehicle drivers, over-the-road drivers, anybody that operates vehicles of some kind. Of course, if we take the classic over-the-road drivers, they're restricted on how much driving they can do without a break. It was a good move when the Federal Motor Carrier Safety Association implemented that. But are they getting their quality of sleep when they take their breaks? Again, another topic. Take some time to look at brain chemistry. As I mentioned before, the two chemicals or two hormones that we're looking at is melatonin and serotonin. Melatonin is stimulated by reduced light. When the eye or the brain perceives that light is declining, melatonin increases and serotonin decreases. Melatonin melatonin makes us sleepy or makes us know that it's time to start preparing for sleep. You can a number of people that I know that have a hard time falling asleep at night, they use melatonin, over-the-counter melatonin, and I guess it's pretty effective. I've never used it myself. You can buy it at health food stores, and again, it increases the melatonin in the blood system, but does it make it to the brain? That's a question. Does it get through the blood-brain barrier and actually induce sleep within the brain? I don't know. Now, when the sun comes up and or our circadian rhythm is set in such a way that we begin to know that it's time to wake up, the melatonin levels decline and serotonin levels increase, which causes us to wake up. I have long been one of those people that as soon as the sun breaks the horizon, I wake up. I used to sleep with the sun with my bedroom window when I was a child faced to the east, and as soon as that sun would come up, I would be wide awake. I do not need a alarm clock. I always wake up at the same amount of time, and I don't. That's one of the reasons that I don't like daylight savings time myself, because I'm usually awake at 5 o'clock, which is when the sun starts coming up. I usually beat the sun rising, but it's an internal clock. So this system, like I said, it cannot be changed. There is no way that you can change this cycle. Light or darkness will affect the levels of melatonin and serotonin. Now, we talk about when we sleep. Now let's look at how we sleep. According to the American Academy of Sleep Medicine, we all need a minimum of 7 hours of sleep, of quality sleep. And there's the key phrase, quality sleep. Recommended 6 to 8 hours, somewhere in between there. Some people use more, some people need less, but the minimum, there's your recommendation right there. That's according to the American Academy of Sleep Medicine. As I said, it's not how much, but what kind of sleep we have that's important. So these are the 4 points that define quality of sleep as published, I guess you could say, by the National Sleep Foundation. This is as of January of this year. These are the 4 points. Just go through these real briefly. For the first one, of course, sleeping more time while in bed. 85% of your sleep needs to be in the bed. That doesn't mean you sleep 4 hours in the recliner in front of the TV and then get up in the middle of the night and go sleep another 4 hours in bed. It needs to be 85% of the time in bed. Falling asleep in 30 minutes or less. You go to bed, the lights are off, your brain is still going. How many of you have experienced a time, where you whether it's anxiety or it's a problem that you have, or something is working on your mind and your body wants to go to sleep, but your mind won't let it. If you're not asleep in 30 minutes, that is considered to be less than. Now, how do we know that 30 minutes? I don't know. I guess if you look at the clock and it says you've been laying there for an hour and a half and you can't get to sleep, you better do something. That's not falling asleep in 30 minutes. Waking up no more than once per night. Well, that's, I find interesting as we get older, becomes more and more necessary to get up in the middle of the night to make one of those bathroom visits. But I find it in my own life, I find it funny that when we had our first child, we were in our 20s, and I could wake up in the middle of the night, go to the baby in her bedroom, change her diaper, and then bring her back into the room and give her to my wife for the midnight feeding, and I would fall back to sleep, and I would not remember a thing. It became such a habit, and we did that for all 3 children. But was I still asleep? I don't know. Again, are you asleep or are you walking? But that's no more than once per night. And then when you wake up, how long does it take to get back to sleep? Does it take you 20 minutes to get back to sleep? Does it take you an hour and a half to get back to sleep? We've all just heard, I think, many times that if you wake up in the middle of the night and you can't fall back to sleep, get up and do something. Get up and go get a drink of water, or sit down in front of on the couch and read. But you do need to avoid anything. If in that situation, don't turn the TV on. Don't do anything with the computer, because that blue light that is emitted by computer screens or TV screens is a sleep disruptor. So there's one, again, some people would get up and watch TV for a while. It doesn't help. But just get up, sit quietly, read a book or whatever, break the habit, and then go back to sleep. Lying in bed trying to get back to sleep only makes matters worse. Some of the other things to look at, the effects of alcohol. In my own personal history, I love a good margarita with supper or two. But I have learned over the years that, sure, if I have those 2 margaritas, I'm probably sound asleep by 8 o'clock. But I can guarantee you I will wake up at about 1:30 to 2 o'clock. I wake up. So the alcohol has the effect of disrupting that sleep cycle. So if I'm going to drink a margarita, it's at 2 o'clock in the afternoon, so I can fall asleep and wake up at 5, have supper, and avoid any more alcohol and go back to normal sleep. Prescriptions and over-the-counter medication, these things, just like caffeine, affects the brain chemistry. So is your medication something that could be, maybe you could delay that particular medication until the morning rather than taking it at night. Some medications require that they need to be taken at night. Well, we take something at night, it disrupts our sleep, so then we turn around and we take some kind of a sleep-inducing medication. And that, by the way, that should be, instead of TOC, that should be OTC. There's the typo I noticed this morning. We mess up, all these things mess up the brain chemistry and that cycle. Caffeine, of course, is still stimulating the body, so where the brain might want to relax, the body can't relax. Sleep disorders. Sleep apnea is a huge public health issue. I have it myself, have it pretty bad. And I think of the times that I really was not getting quality sleep before I was diagnosed with apnea, and the number of times that I almost killed my wife and myself driving the car and falling asleep because of the effects of the sleep apnea. I think we all know sleep apnea by Green Bay Packer, I can't think of his name, who died from the effects of sleep apnea. So again, we can't sleep, so what do? We take sleep-inducing medications, which, quite frankly, if you look at the ingredients, the vast majority of them contain an antihistamine, a sleep-inducing antihistamine, Benadryl, for instance. It makes you go to sleep, but it doesn't provide you with quality sleep. But again, we are asleep. So, okay, we slept 7 hours of sleep we were supposed to, but we are up 3 or 4 times during the night. So sleeping, it really doesn't do what we want it to do. Sleeping during the day, I've been reading myself a number of different studies and facts that are coming out now about afternoon naps. We talk about power naps at work, which are usually 20 minutes, 15 minutes, whatever. But what about those Saturday afternoons when you've been watching baseball on TV or something, you've had a couple of beers, you fall asleep in the chair? Well, that particular activity has been shown to increase heart disease, diabetes, and it also suggests a lack of exercise. And it's not good sleep. It's just simply sleep. It does not have the factors of quality sleep. So daytime sleeping, maybe not a good thing. So let's think about sleep itself. It's referred to technically as sleep debt. If you think of sleep as a savings account. You start with a minimum balance in there, and that's 7 to 8 hours each day. You start with that 7 to 8 hours. You had a good night's sleep last night, so you have 7 to 8 hours of sleep in your savings account, and you need to maintain that balance. So you have a week's worth of good sleep, so you're maintaining. You're not adding to, you're maintaining that 7 to 8 hour balance. You have a few days when you lose sleep. Now you start drawing out of that balance. You had a really rough night last night. You were sick. You only got like 3 hours of sleep. You were up 3 or 4 times. Well, you lost 4 hours of sleep. So now you have a sleep debt. You have to put that back in there somehow. And the way you do that, interestingly enough, though, that if you let's say you have a 4 hour debt, if you have a good night's sleep the next night of 7 hours, you still have a sleep debt of 4 hours. So your body is going to start taking or lengthening the amount of sleep that you need. So you may have a 7.5-hour sleep, or you may have an 8-hour sleep. You're adding time back into that balance to where you maintain that 7 to 8 hour balance. And it's going to keep doing that. Withdrawals, again, decrease the balance, and it increases the debt. The collection force, or the collection factor, forces you at some time to start collecting. You can't stop it, such as sleep apnea, for instance, where sleep is disrupted and you don't get the good quality sleep. So you're driving down the road, you fall asleep, and you kill yourself or you kill somebody else. That's that collection factor coming back at you. You've got to fill that back up, and your body will force you, and it will collect it at some time. I was previously talking about third shift workers, some people saying that they can do that. They are actually operating on a negative sleep balance or a sleep debt. And at some point in time, it may be weeks, it may be months, they're going to begin to show the effects of that sleep debt, whether it is in loss of mental acuity, whether it's illness such as diabetes. All these things are part of that sleep debt. And again, like I said before, this is something that has to be maintained, and it's not that much different individual to individual. Pretty much standard to the human biome. Now, what are the effects of lack of sleep? This is the list that's coming from Halt University. If you look at the source at the bottom, Halt University did a real good, in-depth study. I think it was in 2014 and 2016. This, again, is available online. You can start reading some of the things where they actually looked at not just so much gathering data or research, but looking at doing research themselves. So lack of sleep starts showing up in terms of these things: comprehension of communication, loss of initiative and innovative thinking, displaying emotional intelligence, minimal empathy, self-awareness, self-confidence. But the big one is number 4, and I've highlighted that, is sleep deprivation affects one's ability to assess risk and increases and anticipates consequences and increases risk-taking. Back in my OSHA days, we used to refer to the human behavior of risk-taking as testosterone poisoning. You see it very commonly in men. But think in terms of a sleep-deprived individual, they're not going to be able to see the risk of their job, and they're not going to be able to anticipate. They're just going to do it, and their sense of taking risk is going to increase. Multitasking and decision-making is affected. A lot of data coming out, more and more so. A lot of it associated with the use of cell phones. Contrary to what people think, the human brain cannot multitask. It's just impossible. It has a physical barrier within the brain that prevents it from doing 2 things at once. You can do 2 things or multiple things at one time, but you're not really focusing on. You're just being able to switch back and forth real quickly. You also see more irritability and health issues with people who are sleep deprived. And again, I refer back to that risk-taking. If someone is pushing the envelope and you tell them to stop doing that, they're going to be very irritable and will ignore you even more so. And again, we lose this focus on cooperative behavior. We lose the ability to focus and work together as a team. So again, all these factors are the things that you're going to see when someone is sleep deprived. The one that, as a risk manager myself, the one that I find most interesting is risk-taking behavior increases, and people can't see what they're actually doing. Now, here's one that's my opinion. I find it interesting that over the years we still continue to promote or utilize third shift workers as a source of income for a company or to get product done. But we do know that third shift workers have the highest incident of workplace injury and workers' comp claim. I get that from our workers' comp claims department or our claims department, It's a very well-documented statistic and very much focused on the third shift. Now, the other thing that I want to show, as far as shift workers go, is, and this comes from the Hull University study, which I referred to before, is that according to their study, the average cost per person of a sleep-deprived employee in lost production is about $2,280. Now that just means that they don't work as well, they don't produce as much, and to the amount of $22,000 or $2,200. And then you add to that this increased potential for lower production rate, higher absenteeism during health because of health issues, increased workers' comp costs, and of course there's good old OSHA hiding around in the back there. You have an injury, OSHA's going to show up, and they're going to fine you. And right now, with a 60% increase in OSHA fines, working with a company right now that they're looking at well over $24,000 for one particular injury that occurred a few months ago. $24,000 for one individual's injury. So why do we continue to do this? I wonder sometimes if our accountant people have actually sat down and calculated, are we gaining as a company any advantage to that third shift, where we might actually increase the work hours, the 10 to 12 hour during a normal work shift, normal day, and decrease the use and dependency on third shifts. I don't know, it's an opinion of mine, but again, it's an argument that's been going on for many, many, many years. It's not something new to Rich Johnson. It's been out there for a long time. Now, some of the industries that have, or some of the research that's being done right now, here's a list of them, and these are all available. The biggest one most recently was the Centers for Disease Control, the CDC. The U.S. Department of Transportation, of course, looks at the vehicles, the fleet vehicle, the over-the-road drivers, as far as their effect. It's a nationwide, it's a worldwide epidemic in terms of sleep deprivation. So there's even stuff available from the European Union in terms of what they're observing. I do highlight a couple of them here. This one is I think it's probably the initial one was done in April 2004. You can go to the NIOSH website and download publication 204-143 and start looking at the research that they did back in April, or they published it. And it was really a review of all the studies that had been performed to date. They collected everything and started looking at what data they had out there. They do examine the 8, the 10, and the 12-hour shifts and the effects that it has. It does emphasize healthcare, manufacturing, and white collar, minimally on the construction side. I have not been able to find a really good publication that addresses specifically construction. Why, I don't know. But I would encourage any of you who are interested in looking into this, if you might feel the same way that I do about actually putting together the numbers on third shift work, to see if it's productive, if it's gaining any advantage, or if actually it's a negative factor. This is something that you would want to look at. One thing I do find interesting is they have a table in this particular study that compares the 4 biggest nations in the world as far as production to how many hours of sleep they're getting. We all talk about Europe with its 4-day-a-week practice, especially France, whatever. But the major European and United States, Canada, we all suffer from our minimal sleep time, and that's been diagnosed or identified as an issue. So as production goes up and quality of life goes up and the economy goes up, sleep goes down. It's a sacrifice that people make. Another one, and this is the most recent one, if you ever looked at the Centers for Disease Control, they produce what's called the Mortality and Morbidity Weekly Report, or the MMWR. That's their weekly newsletter. And they call things like the measles epidemic or the drug epidemics, those kinds of things. They will report their statistics. Their most recent one, it's not a big report, it's only 6 pages, but it's available March 3rd, is the MMWR, March 3rd, 2017, and it's on pages 207 to 213. And this is a summary of what they're finding today, most recently. And again, it's nothing new. There's no new data out there. All it's doing is emphasizing, I think, more and more that which we have always known, we're becoming more aware of it, and it's becoming harder and harder to ignore the fact that the human nature, human body, needs to sleep at night and not work. And the effects of, and we need 6 to 8 hours of good quality sleep to keep our sleep depth or our sleep savings account up to where it should be. So the effects are beginning, again, it's an epidemic as far as sleep deprivation. So that really, let's see what my time is. We got some time for questions. If we have any out there, I can certainly respond to you directly. Please follow the procedures as far as how you want to do it.
It doesn't look like we have any questions at the moment. And as I said that, it came right through. So one of our viewers asked, do you think a shorter workday, such as 6 hours, would help reduce the effects of working the third shift, or would reduce the risk still, or would the risk still remain because of the disrupted sleep cycle?
From what I've read to that question, the sleep cycle, disrupted sleep cycle, is still the factor. You can't change that. That's why I started out with that. Even a reduced work hour, if you are working 6 hours, 4 hours, 3 hours, whatever, during that time period when your body wants to sleep, you're still going to have the effects. Now, you may delay it. You may reduce the time or increase the time that a body can tolerate it, but it will eventually build up to the point that you have to have that sleep. So I think we're still arguing that, or perhaps bluntly saying we're still not understanding that you can't change the circadian rhythm. You can't change that need to sleep at night. That's something we just can't, I don't know of any way. I've not been able, I don't think anybody has found a solution to modifying that. That's how ingrained it is in the human body. So to answer your question, I think you're still going to be dealing with disrupting the sleep cycle. Next question, if we have one.
Katrina asked, we utilize a 2-week swing shift schedule. Our employees swing from first to third to second. Is a longer cycle on each shift better, or is swinging a different direction different?
When you swing, as I mentioned before, in the swing cycles, if you start out at one cycle, disregard the first cycle, the first shift, and more likely the second shift. It's that third shift where the biggest compromise has to be done by the individual employee. You're still going to get that need to adapt. Again, some people are better at it than others. So that third shift, they've developed the ability to do that work. Now you swing them over into a first or a second. You've disrupted that. All that adaptation that they've done, they're going to get back into the cycle of working first shift, and then you're going to throw them back into that third cycle again, and they're going to have to go through that whole adaptation period again. The human body is not that flexible. Again, the third shift is all about flexibility. And I think what science and health is finding is the body just isn't that flexible. We are stuck with that circadian cycle, with that sleep cycle, and we just simply cannot change it. And no matter what we do, we're going to cause it to become disrupted if we don't follow it. Hope that answers your question. Next one.
While we're waiting on any other questions, I have pulled up the continuing education credit slide, so please be sure that you take that information down. On the previous slide, you saw Rich's direct information, so as you're working through what you learned today, if any other questions do come up, please give Rich a call or send him an email, and I know he would be happy to address your questions directly.
like we're okay. I'm gonna take you back here. Can I go back?
Yep.
Okay. I'm going back.
Okay. There you go.
Here we go. I'm going to take you back just to these two slides. The questions that we've addressed, the two that came through, when you ask a question, you are looking at it, you're thinking about it, and that's the thing that I'm encouraged by. I would encourage you to go back and get these two documents, and they're free. There's no charge to them. But start understanding the research that's been done into this, and I think you'll see my point of view that as I've come when doing it myself, is that we can't change the cycle. And we've tried, and I think it's at the point now where our society just ignores it and just puts up with it and tolerates it. And I have to ask, as a former OSHA compliance officer and as a risk management, how many injuries do we have in our workplace that are related to sleep deprivation? Whether it's something that someone is doing themselves or whether it's being forced upon them, is sleep deprivation truly a factor? And again, you talk to workers' comp people, and they will tell you that it's very easy to identify the increased increased injury rate among third shift workers. And if you start looking at the numbers itself, is production down? So this is, I'd encourage you, again, go back and find these two documents. There's many others. There is the one from I think it's the Federal Motor Carrier Safety Association that directly relates to over-the-road operators. Still the same factor. Their issue, of course, is they sleep. They're forced to sleep by the law, but are they having quality sleep, or are they getting on their cell phones? Again, that blue screen. If you have children and children use the computer before they go to sleep, and you're having trouble having them get to sleep, it's that blue screen. That's the most recent data we have on that. So again, take a look at these two documents.
And actually, we're going to go ahead and send you the links to these two publications in our follow-up email. So be on the lookout for that follow-up email from one of my associates or from GoToWebinar. And with that, I think we're going to call it a webinar. Thanks, everybody, for joining us, and we hope to see you next time.